when a person dying, usually it is quite sensitive and important time for the person and for the family. And in this time, usually family, if they know that the person is dying, they try to come around, try to be around that person. And usually in this time, the person who is dying try to reconcile the relationship with the family, because sometimes we hurt each other, and they try to ask for forgiveness. What is more, they try to reconcile their relationship with God. If they haven't lived a good life, or if they were not committed to God, they try to make their confessions. They try to confess their sins, and they try to ask for forgiveness, and they try to have this assurance that God will take care of them. And it's interesting that at that moment, sometimes they tell the stories, their secrets that they never ever told anyone, to their family, to their friends. Imagine if your mother or father lives far away from you, and the doctor said that it is not much time left for them to live. What would you do? I guess you would rush to your mother or father who is dying. Why? Because you don't want to miss this opportunity to see them, to hear the last words, to be at their bedside. And imagine if you are late. You come, but they already passed away. How would you feel? I guess you would feel terrible. You would feel that you missed that opportunity to tell your mother or father that you loved them and you're so grateful for what they have done to you. So this morning I would like to look at the end of the book of Deuteronomy. And here Moses is coming to the end of his life, and God gave him some instructions. Deuteronomy chapters 31 to 34 tells us the last words and last actions what Moses did. In chapter 31, Moses said that he was going to die, and he was preparing for that. So he knew that he is going to die, and he is saying that is my time. Then we come, yes, and the Lord asked him to choose a successor, and we know that Joshua was chosen at that time. Also, God gave him a command to write a song, and this is chapter 32, where we can find wrote that song. Chapter 33, he blesses all the tribes of Israel, and in chapter 34, he dies, and he is buried. We know in the book of Exodus, chapter 15, there is a song, Moses and Miriam song. But not many of us maybe know that in chapter 32 there is another song that Moses wrote. And it's interesting that I would like to give you attention to that song today, and especially to these verses from 9 to 11. But before we read again these few verses, I would like to go quickly through the chapter. For example, in verses 1 and 2, he appeals to the people to listen his words. You see, he is dying, and he appeals to people of Israel so they would listen what he is about to say. Verse 3 and 4, he gives glory to God. And it's important because we know the life of Moses. It was not easy life. It was up and down. And we know how he was born, and that was a miracle because he was destined to be killed. But he survived because God led him. So in verses 3 and 4, he gives glory to God. Verses 5 and 6, he points out to Israel's rebelliousness. How God's chosen people, rebelled against God. From verse 7 to verse 14, Moses reminds them how God treated them and how they abandoned him. And if we read this chapter further, then we'll see that God said what would happen to the people of Israel if they were to obey God, and what would happen if they would disobey God. You know, today at the Sabbath school lesson, we studied that lesson. Studied that lesson about the tree, single tree that was planted in the Garden of Eden. And we asked the question, is it difficult to obey? You had plenty of trees to eat and only one forbidden. It seems like nothing. But that was a stumbling block for them. God gave them choice, and they choose the wrong thing. So 7 to 14, Moses is showing them what would happen if they would obey God, and what would happen if they disobey. And verses 44 to 47 tells us that this song is finished, and Moses declared all to Israel. So let us go to chapter 32 and read again verses 9 to 11. 9 to 11, Deuteronomy chapter 32, 9 to 11. For the Lord's portion is his people, Jacob his allotted inheritance. In a desert land he found him, in a barren and howling waste. He shielded him and cared for him. He guarded him as the apple of his eye. Like an eagle that stirs up its nest and hovers over its young, that spreads its wings and catches them and carries them aloft. So what Moses wanted to show here or tell here to the people of Israel, that people of Israel, even he called them Jacob, that's a general name for people of Israel, he wanted to tell them that they are his children. They are his children. They are his special chosen children. So, as in verse 9, we can see portion of his people, Jacob, allotted inheritance. So he has chosen people of Israel to be his chosen people here on earth. But how do we become the children of God? Or how did they become the children of God? And it's interesting, if we start reading verse 10, we can see in a desert land he found him. Who found God first? Israel, or God found Israel? God found Israel. If we apply it to our lives, it's not I who first found God. It's not you who found God. God found you first. God found you in the desert. It's interesting, the word desert. Who lives in the desert? Wild animals. Do you want to be in the middle of a desert by yourself? I don't think. But what happened? We were lost in the desert. He said, Israel were lost. And we were lost in the desert where all sort of wild animals live, in the danger. He found us. If we keep reading verse 10, we can find that not only desert, in a barren and howling waste. You know what? Maybe some of you were lost in this world. Maybe you know your friends who were lost in the sinful connection of this world. And maybe some of your friends died. I certainly have this experience. I know some of my friends who were lost in this world, in alcohol, in drugs. They are not around anymore. They're dead. Maybe some of you were in these circumstances, lost in this world, but God saw you there. He found you and He called you to come out from this world and come to Him, to be safe under His wings. It's interesting, if we keep reading, we can find here that God not only found Israel, it says that He shielded him and cared for him. Yes, we know that applies to Israel. How God protected them. How God guided them. And if you read the Old Testament, you would see that all the battles that Israel had, it was not the Israel's battle, it was God's battle. And if Israel would trust God, they would win. But if not, they would lose. So, same principle applies to us. Think about your life. How many times in your life God protected you? How many times in your life God guided you? God shielded you? God put some special protection for you, for your children, for your family? Why did He do that? Because you are special. You are His child. You are His son, and you are His daughter. They are precious to Him. And we know that because if we keep reading from the Old Testament and come to the New Testament, we come to the cross, where Jesus was crucified for whom? For you and for me. And not only for you and for me, He was crucified for everyone. Why? Because He loves us, because we are His children. So we can see here that God protected Israel. He guarded him. And it's an interesting expression, as the apple of His eye. How would you understand that level of protection? How would you describe it? As the apple of His eye. Any thoughts? Most precious thing. So Israel for God was most precious nation. Most precious thing. Same applies to us. We are His children and we are precious. And He shields us, He protects us. And now we come to the verse 11. And in verse 11, we can find an interesting image. God compared Himself to an eagle. Like a lion is the king of the animals, eagle is the king of all the birds. And I think that God purposely impressed Moses to use this metaphor, to compare him to an eagle. So we know that eagles, one of the characteristics, they are strong birds. And they can break the bones of its prey with their beaks and with their claws. They're very strong. Another characteristic, they have an excellent eyesight. Scientists say that the eagles can fly up to 3 kilometers above the earth. It's a quite high altitude. And from that distance, they could see a tiny mouse on the ground. From 3 kilometers. Scientists discovered that in a clear weather, eagles could see up to 8 kilometers. That's impossible for me. I hardly could read my Bible without glasses. But they can see up to... And from that distance, they could see a tiny fish, 6 or 7 centimeters. That's amazing. And this is no wonder why God chooses an eagle as a metaphor to describe how He cares about His people. But you can ask a question. If God has such a beautiful and excellent eyesight, and He can observe and see what is happening in our life, why we encounter misfortune, why we diagnosed with incurable illnesses, why do we have financial hardship, and we can continue that list on and on. Does that tell us that we are not the children of God? Does that tell us that He doesn't care about us? No. It's interesting that the mother eagle has a very wide wing spread. It can be up to 2 meters. So it's like Brad described the eagle, but that's not the biggest eagle in the world. So they are quite big. And mother eagle, before he started to have her nestling, her nestling appears, she started to build her nest a long time before the nestling appears. And usually she chooses a very high and vertical cliff. And on top of that vertical cliff, she started to build the nest. And the nest can be up to 1 meter in diameter and 1.5 meters in height. So it's quite big nest for the eagle and for the big birds. And as Brad already described, that she chooses the flexible sticks or twigs to build the nest, so the nest would be a strong one. Plus, when she builds the walls, she uses a soft material to put on the bottom of the nest, because she wants her nest be comfortable for her nestlings. And when the nestling appears, their job is just to wait until mom comes and open their beaks and swallow the food that the mom brings. And the time goes by, and the nestling grows, became stronger, and then time comes when the mother eagle starts to teach her nestling to fly. And as Brad described, eagles started to have crazy behavior at that time. So mother eagle comes to her little one and she says, "My darling, you are big enough to start learning to fly." And her son answers, "Mom, I don't know how to fly. And what is more, I don't want to learn to fly." And mom tried to explain to her little one that, my darling, life is so difficult and complicated, and in the future you will encounter many situations where you need to know how to fly, to protect yourself, to get the food for yourself. And as usual, the little one say, "No, I don't want to fly, and I will never, ever will fly." And mom tried to find the best approach, explain to him, "Look, it's not too hard. Look at me. What I do, I just jump up, spread my wings, and because I have very big wings, long wings, I can fly. The air holds me. God created us so perfectly so we can fly for a long, long time without tiring. And you need just to wave your wings, and you will fly." And she shows him how to fly. When she comes back, she says, "My darling, it's your time." But her son refuses and says, "No, no, Mom. It doesn't matter that you can fly. I will never fly." Why? Because I don't want to do so. And then Mom starts to do very crazy thing. Stick by stick, she starts to destroy her nest. Stick by stick, she shows to her little one that this comfortable nest will be demolished. And when she destroyed the walls of this strong and carefully built nest, she tells to her son, "Look, your nest is not comfortable for you anymore. It is better for you to learn to fly." But her nestling refuses and says, "No, no, no, I don't want to fly. It's scary. Look how high it is." And then she do most craziest thing. She pushes him off from that nest, from the cliff. And the little one is trying to save his life, trying to wing about his wings, trying to fly, doing the best attempts to not to fall on the rocks. do everything. And as Brad explained, that it is exactly what in the Bible, the mother eagle, because of her excellent eyesight, see what is happening around her nestling. And if she sees that her nestling indeed cannot fly, cannot do anything, and is about to hit the rock, she flies under him, put him on his wings, on her wings, and bring him back to the nest. And then she says to her little one, not too bad for the first time, let's try again. And the little one started to scream and shout, you didn't know what I experienced. It was awful. I nearly died. You don't care about me. And if you don't care about me, why did you give birth to me? And she said, no, I love you. And she pushes him off from the nest again. And she is repeating it again and again and again until the little one starts to fly. Think about Israel. God prepared the comfortable nest in Egypt. And when the people of Israel came there, Jacob came there, he cared about them. And because of the excellent relationship between Joseph and Pharaoh, that place was comfortable for them to survive the famine and prosper and increase in numbers. But then, as the years were passing by, Israelites thought, oh, it is comfortable nest for us. We don't want to leave this nest. We wanted to live here forever. And this is why God shook that nest and created troubles in their life. And that comfortable nest was not comfortable evermore. And he sent Moses to take them out of this uncomfortable nest. And you remember how they reacted? They didn't want to go first. And God has to use all his power to convince people of Israel that they need to leave. And they left eventually. And we know the history. Even when they came to the Red Sea in front of them, and the Pharaoh's army behind them, they started to grumble. But God showed his power. And he divided the Red Sea, and they could go through the dry land. What did happen to the army that chasing them? They were chasing them? Swallowed in these waters. And then God showed them his presence in the pillar of fire at night and pillar of cloud at the day. He showed his presence, that he cares about them and he loves them. Was it easy trip through the desert? No. Why? Because they were not happy. They wanted to go where? Back to their comfortable nest in Egypt. But God said, no. We are not turning back. We are going forward. So why trouble comes to our lives? Why we experience difficult situation? And maybe right now someone goes through the difficult time in your life. Why that happens? If God cares about us, if God look after us, if God knows everything, why does he allow us to go through this time? These questions been asked many, many times, and this type of equation is not easy to answer. But I think that God allows us to go through the difficult times because we became comfortable in our nests. And we became warm. This is the term that book of Revelation describes our life. We are not cold, we are not hot. We are warm. We are comfortable in our nest. And God shakes our nests. So we wake up and understand, what time are we living in? We are living at the end of time. And you see all the events that are happening around the world, that is exactly the fulfillment of the prophecy from the Bible. It is not an accident. It is how the Bible tells us what's going to happen. And He wants us to be ready to face bigger challenges in our lives, to face bigger temptations, to face bigger troubles. We were told for many times and for many years that the time comes when we have to leave our homes, our comfortable nests, and run to the countryside. Are you ready if it comes tomorrow? I asked myself, and my answer was, no, I'm not ready. But we know that that will happen. And this is why God allows us to go through minor difficult times in our lives to prepare us for the bigger challenges, for the bigger temptations. But we have to remember one thing. We are His children. And what we are and what we have because of Him. It is not because we are good or we achieved something. No, because He found us first. He cared about us. He protected us. He blessed us. And He is preparing us for one great thing, to be in His kingdom with Him forever. Amen.